we are being manipulated here. So look, I'm going to get you to analyze this tell-all interview from Harry and show you the key moments. But first, to set it up, this is the overall documentary, which also features some of our favourites like Charlotte Church, Hugh Grant, and even Gordon Brown.
And yet for many, the pain endures. Not least for a prince who continues to fight.
This is a David versus Goliath situation. The Davids are the claimants, and the Goliath is this vast media enterprise.
And it's not just the rich and famous.
This wasn't salacious gossip. We were just normal people who got involved in a horrific incident.
Recent claims go even further. Burglary.
The whole door had been taken off its hinges.
Eavesdropping on people's live phone calls and blagging their private information. As one courtroom battle concludes, other Fleet Street giants face trial. Now accusations of cover-ups against some newspapers.
It is clear to me that we were not told the full truth.
Have reignited this controversy.
The Yard covered it up.
Giving some new drive in their fight for the truth.
I don't think there's anybody else in the world that is better suited to be able to see this through than myself. I'm trying to get justice for everybody.
And yet
Kelvin, I would love ITV to spend as much time focusing on the phone hacking scandal of 2 decades ago. I'd love them to spend as much time on the Telford grooming gangs, for example. Why are they so obsessed with this story? And are they just doing client journalism on behalf of Prince Harry?
That's a very good question, because there's no money in backing Harry or Meghan. We've seen this. Netflix, the series plummeted. They did atrociously. The Spotify deal for podcasts didn't do very well either. Whenever companies back Harry or Meghan, they don't make money. They very rarely make their investment back. So there's not a monetary purpose for ITV to back the Markles. So what could it be? I'm thinking maybe they're just anti-establishment, or even worse than that. Maybe they're just anti-British. Maybe the ITV is taking a jab at not just our royal family, but the rest of us too. I think that's probably the reason they're really, really backing Harry in this, all this time later, when it's no longer even relevant.
Well, they're certainly uber woke now, because you remember Carolyn McCall, the chief executive, all it took was one email from Meghan Markle to her after Piers Morgan criticised her for lying during the Oprah Winfrey interview. And Piers was effectively forced out of Good Morning Britain, told to apologise or he'd have to go. He didn't apologise, so he had to go. And it was proven within hours that Meghan had lied time and again during that Oprah Winfrey interview, including, by the way, about her claims of feeling suicidal and being let down by the palace machine. So we know that ITV is always going to back Meghan as a result. I just think it's as a result of the fact they have this very woke chief executive, and also, Kelvin, do you remember Tom Bradby, who's totally in control of everything at ITV News? His friends get all the good coverage and his enemies get terrible coverage. And Prince William fell out with him because he chose to back Prince Harry. And so I think now ITV News know they're going to get nothing from Prince William, so they're just all in on this Prince Harry propaganda machine.
And you're right, there are so many lies, proven lies. I think you and I both backed Piers Morgan at the time. Not that we're particularly fans of his. I can speak for myself. I'm not particularly a big fan of his work all the time, but he was right on this, and right on not apologising when he wasn't in the wrong. Because I pointed out on your show, actually, that certain lies that I had witnessed from Meghan, such as she was not married the day before. You know, she said this. There were 2 weddings. We had our own little private wedding, and then we got married. It's like, no, that's against the law. The Archbishop of Canterbury would not do it. Weddings require witnesses, first and foremost, so you can't do it privately. And ceremonies require a license and a covered venue, so it wouldn't be done in your garden, and it wouldn't be done somewhere that's not a church, and you can't get married twice. So we've proven plenty of times that she's a liar. And for some reason, that doesn't matter. The woke don't care about lies. They don't care about hypocrisy. They don't care really about values. They stick to their own. And this is why we're seeing all of these people backing Harry and Meghan because they're sticking together regardless of who's right and who's wrong or who's telling the truth or who's not.
Yeah,
it's quite shameful, really.
Harry doesn't care about the truth. He just cares about his truth. It's his version of events. It doesn't actually matter if it's anchored in facts or not. So let's have a look at what he said in this tell-all interview with ITV's fawning journalist, Rebecca Barry, who does not ask the guy one tough question. So this is when he speaks about achieving some sort of massive victory after his case against the Daily Mirror last year.
When you got the judge's ruling that you had been hacked, what was your reaction?
To go in there and come out and have the judge rule in our favour was obviously huge, but for him to go as far as he did with regard to, this wasn't just the individual people, this went right up to the top. This was lawyers, this was high executives, and to be able to achieve that in a trial, and that's a monumental victory.
But it wasn't a monumental victory, Calvin. This was a civil case. And I'll just remind Harry that it was actually back in 2011 when there was a monumental victory, when Andy Coulson and Clive Goodman ended up in jail and the News of the World shut down, and phone hacking as a widespread practice in the British press was completely stamped out. It's been done. It's nothing to do with you or you taking on this personal vendetta against the Daily Mirror now because you just want to see Piers Morgan in jail, which is genuinely what he wants, Calvin. He's called on the Metropolitan Police to reopen their criminal investigation into Piers Morgan because he wants Piers Morgan behind bars because Piers Morgan doesn't like his wife. It's nuts.
Well, he wants, from his point of view, justice, doesn't he? This is the social justice of the left, which is vindictive. It's actually, you hurt me or you've harmed me by disagreeing with me. You hate me because you do not see the world the same way that I do. Therefore, you should be punished. That is the attitude of the left, of the woke. And unfortunately, Harry is woke, and so is Meghan. And this is part of the problem. But I'd like to point out, it's painted as if there was this, these masterminds in their labs hacking all these celebrities' phones with, matrix screens and all of this kind of stuff. It wasn't the case. I used to teach computer science. I used to teach people how to hack and how to prevent hacking. And all this was actually, the phone hacking scandal was down to stupidity. There was no hacking involved. It was simply a case of not setting a PIN code on your answer machine.
Yeah.
If
you didn't set a PIN code, I think it was 1, 2, 3, 4 or something. You could just get in and listen to anyone's
You just press the default PIN code and listen to someone else's message. That's it. So all these high-profile celebrities, they didn't get hacked. They were just stupid enough not to change their PIN code.
Yeah, and celebrities have... Look, I as I say, and I'll just repeat this because it's important, given my personal involvement in the tabloid media. I've never hacked a phone, never been involved in anything criminal. I have never used a private investigator. I actually gave evidence under oath during the Leveson inquiry to put all of that on the record, and that's really important to me. At the same time, I couldn't agree more. This idea that the phone hacking scandal is the worst thing that's ever happened in recent British history, which is what you'd believe if you listen to Harry and you watch ITV, is utter rubbish. What the BBC did to Princess Diana over Panorama was far worse. The way that the BBC covered up Jimmy Savile's paedophilia was far worse. I mean, there's multiple media scandals that are far worse than some corrupted showbiz journalists listening to celebrities' voicemails, as wrong as that was. But look, I want to play the next clip, Calvin, and this is the one that's really going to upset Prince William, because yet again, Harry decides, and I think this is to garner sympathy from the public because he knows how popular his mother remains, but he chooses to bring Diana into the whole story.
Other victims of hacking that I've spoken to have described the paranoia that it creates. Do you identify with that?
I think paranoia it's a very interesting word because, yes, then it could be paranoia, but then when you're vindicated, it proves that you weren't being paranoid. Same with my mother. There is evidence to suggest that she was being hacked in the mid-90s. Probably one of the first people to be hacked, and yet still today the tabloid press very much enjoy painting her as being paranoid, but she wasn't paranoid. She was absolutely right of what was happening to her, and she's not around today to find out the truth.
Does your mother motivate you in this legal fight?
There's all sorts of things that motivate me.
While it's never been proven in court that Princess Diana was hacked, the past remains raw.
Now, Calvin, look, Princess Diana had a very complicated relationship with the media. Certainly, she was hounded by paparazzi in quite a disgusting way, and since her death, there's been so much regulation in the UK and in many European states to stop that sort of hounding on a daily basis. That was awful, you know, when you would see her surrounded by 20 grown blokes shouting obscenities at her. Awful. Yeah. But when it actually came to the media, Calvin, she had a very close working relationship with tabloid journalists. Harry doesn't like to acknowledge this because it doesn't fit his narrative. But one of the last people who Princess Diana spoke to on the day before her tragic car accident in Paris, Calvin, was Richard Kay, the then royal correspondent for the Daily Mirror, for the Daily Mail, a close friend who she used to smuggle in to Kensington Palace in order to give him scoops, sometimes about her marriage to Charles. So Diana knew how to work the media. She was not manipulated by the media. Very often, Diana would be the one to manipulate the media, to call up the photographers, that sort of thing. By the way, I'm not criticizing her for that at all. I'm just saying that Harry is painting a very inaccurate picture about his mother's relationship with the media. But first, you know I have promised to talk to you about products on this show that are actually life-changing. Now, this one is really fun, a little bit more personal, but let me tell you, the fellas watching are going to completely get it, and the ladies would do very well to treat their husband or boyfriend because it really is a game changer. Remember, us men want our grooming routine to be a one-and-done deal? Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and privates are over, thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trimmed from 12 to 6. So introducing the Beard and Balls bundle featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Hedger. And I know what it sounds like, but we're not actually talking about this sort of lawnmower. You can actually get precision trimming for all areas, even the sensitive ones, and get your man manicured as freshly cut grass. So I'm talking about a trimmer for the moneymaker, another for the boys downstairs. This trimmer gets it right the first time, being gentle on the skin in all the delicate places. And with 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads, you can choose between a precise trim or a smooth finish. And did I mention it's waterproof, so you can trim in the shower and avoid making a mess everywhere. Next, let's talk about the Beard Hedger, because whether you are going for a neat stubble or a full-on lumberjack look, this trimmer has you covered. It features a titanium-coated stainless steel T-blade and 20 length options, which means you can achieve any style you want with just one small twist of the zoom wheel. And like the lawnmower, the Beard Hedger is also waterproof, so you can handle your beard grooming right in the sink or the shower even without worrying about water damage. And with up to 60 minutes of runtime and an LED charge indicator, you'll never be caught mid-trim or with a dead battery. It genuinely is such a gentle product. No more cuts. You can keep your loved one happy, and it will increase your confidence. Plus, the great news is today you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code Outspoken at manscaped.com. I repeat, 20% off and free shipping. Just type Outspoken into the code box at manscaped.com. No more juggling multiple tools or dealing with subpar results. Just efficient, effective grooming wherever you need it. For the premium grooming experience, trust Manscaped. And I also really strongly believe, Calvin, that Diana, if she were alive today, would say to Harry, Harry, this is not the most important battle. I mean, think of the things that Diana focused on, Calvin, during her very short life, trying to wipe out the scourge of landmines, dealing with the victims of HIV and AIDS at a time when very little was known about that illness, raising the awareness of the eating disorder, bulimia. Like, Diana cared about real issues. Phone hacking is not a real issue that impacts the life of ordinary folk. Homelessness was another one, Calvin. Do you know what I mean?
I do. You're right. She knew how to play the media, but so do they. You know, don't forget, Harry and Meghan play the media all the time. They have their friends who they will let know where they're going to be at certain times so they can leak stories. Of course, they all do. That's how the game is played. But what I dislike about this in particular is it's grief porn. It's a bit Pop Idol-esque. It's the crying to the like reality TV tears, kind of to win over people. It's emotional manipulation. It's what he's doing there. He may not realize he's doing it, but that's what it comes across as, almost emotional blackmail. It's quite thickly. I didn't like that at all. But all of it, of course, is a deflection because, like you pointed out, there are so many real issues, so many important issues in the mainstream media that could be addressed, and ITV are instead focusing on this. So it's deflection from ITV for that purpose. But from Harry and Meghan, it's also deflection because, as you likewise pointed out, there are real social injustices. There are real serious issues, people in poverty, people in need of love and affection all across the world for different causes. And instead, they focus on themselves and what's important to them personally. It's a selfish desire rather than a social justice, a true social justice, which his mother had.
Exactly. The phone hacking of very wealthy celebrities 2 decades ago is not a big social justice issue, no matter how you want to frame it. And also, Calvin, the media has changed so much now. It's like they're fighting yesterday's war, right? Because
they're fighting a ghost.
Yeah, because the newspapers are irrelevant. Like, the MSM's dead, right? We both know that. The newspapers don't set the agenda anymore. They are dying out. And actually, it's social media now, which is the Wild West, where people post videos and pictures of anything. So actually, they're just fighting a battle based on personal vendettas. But of course, Harry also uses the tell-all interview with Woke ITV to criticize his family. And the thing that I found most ironic, Calvin, is he criticizes his family, and I would say this was aimed at Charles and William, for a lack of service, given he has literally left a life of service to pack up and move to Hollywood. I found that this very odd, but have a watch.
To what extent do you think that your determination to fight the tabloids destroyed the relationship with your family?
I think there's, that's certainly a central piece to it. But that's a hard question to answer because anything I say about my family results in a torrent of abuse from the press. I've made it very clear that this is something that needs to be done. It would be nice if we did it as a family. I believe that, again, from a service standpoint and when you're in a public role, that these are the things that we should be doing for the greater good. But I'm doing this for my reasons.
What do you think of their decision not to fight in the way that you have?
I think everything that's played out has shown people what the truth of the matter is. For me, the mission continues, but it's caused, as you say, part of a rift.
From a service standpoint, Calvin, from the man who has literally left a life of service, can you believe such an egregious comment just came out of his mouth?
It's quite sad, but I'm actually pleased to hear him use the word service. He's clearly been thinking about this because this should be his role. He should be here to serve, and he should be obedient to his father, and he should be serving the country as well as his family. He's here for us. He is a prince. And it seems he wants the privilege, and so does his wife, of the privileges that come with that position without the duty and the obligation. When they left the royal service, when they stopped being active royals, they still wanted to keep many of the privileges, such as the income and such as the security. And there have been some battles back and forth on that, of course. But it's important that he's using the word because he's thinking about it. But then the juxtaposition of the next sentence, when he said, "I'm doing this for my reasons," again, it comes back to him. I, me, my. That's not service. That's the exact opposite. So I'm hoping he spends a bit more time reflecting on this and comes around to see that his brother and his father and the rest of his family are right on this. It's God, country, and then the rest of your own personal reasons. And he has it the other way around.
Exactly. I just think if he believes this is what's going to give him a legacy as anything other than a Duke of Windsor, Wallis, Simpson type couple, then he is deluded. Because as you say, this is not one of those issues that is going to resonate in decades' time, whereas the work of his mother absolutely does. And if you look at William, for example, he has decided to take on lots of her causes, like homelessness, for example. And actually, Harry should be focusing on something like that. He did do a very good job, Calvin, with the Invictus Games. Actually, that was service orientated because it was about wounded service men. but actually some sort of campaigner for press reform because you don't like what's being written about you in the media, when actually you spill the secrets of your family, including, by the way, really intimate secrets, like about messages sent between Catherine and Meghan, or, you know, whether Prince William is circumcised or not, and what the Queen said to him at some time. I mean, he's a purveyor of this sort of royal tittle tattle now in order to make money. So yeah, I just don't think it flies.
You're right. I mean, Invictus was his peak. It was his high point. And that video that he did with the Commonwealth for the Commonwealth Games as well, with his late grandmother, the Queen, when he did the cheesy, you know, mic drop thing, I found it a bit cringe, but lots of younger people found it quite cool. And that would have been a role that he could have, he would have suited. He could have brought the royal family into modernity a little bit, just by adding his own personal flair. That would have been fantastic, instead of fighting against it, which is what he's doing now. But you're right. This whole fight for privacy is because he doesn't have a thick skin, and he's been hurt and upset by the media, as we all have. It's not very nice, but this is not the right approach. And if he truly wants to step away from it, doesn't want to be hurt by the media anymore, he can't fight them in the courts. He has to go and live a private life as a civilian.
Yeah, just disappear. Exactly. Stop spilling your family's secrets. Now, look, Calvin, they say charity starts at home. And if that were really true, I would argue that actually Prince Harry should be more concerned right now about the state of his father-in-law's health. Thomas Markle, who turned 80 last week, he's recovering from a near-death stroke, which took away much of his ability to speak. But shamefully, when it comes to Meghan and Harry, it's actually been left to our good friend, Lady Colin Campbell, to set up this GoFundMe for Thomas. She was very, very clear, Calvin, that she did this without asking the family, because believe me, I know the Markles, and the last thing that the family want is a handout. They are very, very proud people, Calvin. But she decided to do this because she felt that Thomas had been so generous with his time and money over the years. And actually, this was a moment for the public to repay Thomas for some of that support, given that he is not receiving any help with his medical recovery and rehabilitation, everything. It's very expensive from Prince Harry or Meghan. But the amazing thing is, Calvin, I'm just looking now, this has soared. So Lady C only wanted to raise £10,000, right? She has already, and this is in less than 48 hours, raised for Thomas Markle over £27,000. And I actually think that shows there's a lot of love out there for that man. Right. And I really hope Harry and Meghan hear about this and feel quite ashamed, because, you know, £27,000 for them is about 10 seconds work.
Yeah, it's a drop in the ocean for them. They should feel ashamed because, like I was talking about earlier, their duty, their obligation, their sense of service should be also to their family, even the ones they are no longer speaking to, because love is more important than anything else. And so for them to leave him, essentially abandon him, Harry's father-in-law and Meghan's father, is disgusting. And leaving it up to the general public to fund his well-being, it is a shameful act, but it also is a great signifier for how loved he is and the family is, but also how great the average common folk is. You know, normal, ordinary people putting in their dime, their nickel and dime, in order to support a man who needs it. That is a good signifier of how great Britain and America is, and all the people that are not listening to Harry and Meghan, but are just doing the right thing, doing the good thing. But it should be up to them, really.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please do subscribe if you want lots more clips and interviews like that. Plus, if you want to watch our totally uncensored after show, then visit www.outspoken.live.